Alrighty. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Season 7 finale of 3 Up, 3 Down. Modern trends in umpiring here, and yet another topic for us as we all try and think about, what exactly can we take away from 2021 and start to apply it forward as we, start to take a look at the off season here into 2022. So excited to go ahead and wrap this one up and kind of give you guys some more things to think about to stimulate thinking as you start to think about what exactly do you want to get better at here as we approach the year 2022. A couple announcements here as normal. And DJ, you can link these in the chat as we get to them. First major announcement is today's the season finale of Season 7, so that means next week we'll be off. A lot of people will be there for Halloween next week, or a lot of people have Halloween and whatnot going on, so we're just going to go ahead and take a break for things next week. So next week we're off. We'll also then go ahead and pick back up then on the 7th of November. So November 7th is when we'll go ahead and pick back up. The theme of the next season, Season 8, that does start November the 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern, will be designing clinics for your localities, for your districts, for your states. So we're going to talk about designing clinics and trainings. We'll start actually with the virtual component because I think a lot of people are interested in how exactly to do some virtual teaching. So we'll talk about that one and then move on to talk about some traditional things like how do you do a plate clinic, how do you do a base clinic, what are some drills, what are some things that you want to emphasize. So that's where we're headed in Season 8, and again that'll go ahead and come to us beginning November 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Again, that's that Sunday too. Right. A couple other announcements here, and those are out there for us that we went through last week, one of which then is the Southeast Clinic. Remember that Southeast Clinic is November 5th through the 7th. They're in Warner Robins, so November 5th through the 7th. That's next weekend if you're interested and available and going down to that one. Tournament requests are also open then on the Little League Umpire Registry. So if you're somebody that's interested in applying for a tournament in 2022, we are now taking applications on the Umpire Registry. Remember that is the only way that you can apply for tournaments next year is online through the Umpire Registry. I think those opened up this past Thursday or Friday, and they are due on November the 22nd. And then last major update then for us is that be on the lookout for announcements on clinics and schools. I think we are starting to, at least in the central region, get those on paper and almost get them approved. And the same is true with a lot of the other regions out there too. So keep an eye with the information from your regions on those in-person trainings. Those are definitely coming back to us, and probably see an expansion of virtual trainings as well as we start to go ahead and turn to 2022. That's all the announcements I've got written down. DJ Seth, I know we talked about a lot of things. Did I miss anything announcement-wise or anything worth touching base with here?
I think you got everything.
All right, so we're good to go there. Well, okay, everyone, we'll go ahead and get started here with the last episode of Season 7. As I mentioned, tonight's major focal point is to go back again here and take a look primarily at some of the modern trends and challenges and apply those then to stimulate thinking, yes, but to stimulate thinking forward. What exactly do we want to get better at in 2022? That's kind of the overall theme, the overall objective here for us here tonight. Now, before we go ahead and get into that, last week I went ahead and shared a resource with you. And DJ, if you want to link this one in the chat if it's not already there, and you guys can pull it up if you'd like. I'm going to share my screen with you guys too on this one. But we released a resource called the Umpires Grind. And the Umpires Grind is basically just a reflective notebook with a couple different templates in it to help you go ahead and reflect on a variety of different things here that you may be encountering in a season, clinics, whatever the case may be. So I want to take a quick second here and just kind of share that with you guys, and hopefully here it's popping up for us so that you can see it. I've got a little bit of an overview and an outline here in the purpose and the overview of the format. If you kind of take a look here at the templates, this Umpires Grind notebook basically is outlined to give you some preseason plans, some templates for that, for some post-game reflections. Anytime that you want to do like a short cycle reflection, whether it be after a clinic, maybe it's after a series of games, a week of games, a month of games, and then lastly, season in review. So those are kind of the different formats that we use then to kind of frame some of the different types of reflection tools. We also then try to give you guys a list in 6 different categories. You see those listed here for you of things to think about that you may want to go ahead and gauge and see where exactly you fall. So as you kind of can evaluate yourself and think about, hey, what exactly should I be getting better at? If you take a look here, hopefully this kind of starts to give you a list of themes or some things to think about that you may want to write into your notebooks or into your mind as you get ready for 2022. Now, the reflection templates are also included in that document. Pretty self-explanatory. Here's one, just a couple different questions to ask yourself in a preseason planning mode, and that's kind of where we're going here as we take a look at 2022. A couple things with goal setting and the mental approach for things, just about how exactly you need to do what you need to do. So just a reflective template there. Also went ahead and included a self-evaluation template for some folks as well. You got your scale up at the top, and you can go ahead and do this either after a game, a series of games, whatever the case may be. But if you go back to those 6 categories that we shared here with you, essentially that's what's all listed right in here. You can kind of rate yourself and make some summary notes or whatever the case may be on some things that you may want to improve upon. So if you're somebody that needs more of like a checklist of evaluation points and whatnot, this then kind of gives us that in this template as well. Another template that I also included is straight from the Navy SEALs. It's before and after action review plans. On the left, you've got the before action review. On the right, you've got the after action review. This is something that our military uses after a lot of their missions or a lot of their different things that they're doing. Obviously, what we're doing is not exactly as intense, but nonetheless, it's a really good reflective tool to kind of figure out, all right, what exactly did we get out of it? And what exactly do we need to improve upon? So just a couple different reflection questions as you see listed here, before action, after action reviews, to really kind of hopefully get you to be a little bit more mindful of how you approach the game and help you then improve day by day, game by game, pitch by pitch. This next template is one that I think is really cool. It's called Stop, Start, Continue. And what I found is that this one's actually really good to use either in a short cycle, so after a week or after a month's worth of assignments, or maybe you're doing a tournament in a weekend, or even better, after you go to a clinic. Okay, and this Stop, Start, Continue is exactly what it sounds like. You basically pick something here that you should start doing. So from a clinic, what did you pick up that you should start doing? What did you learn you should think about stop doing? Okay, think about that reflected as well. And what are some things that you're doing well already that you should continue to do? So stop, start, continue. A really good one as a short cycle template, but again, a really good one here after a clinic as well, to kind of think about, number one, what you learned and what adjustments you want to make to your craft to start, stop, and continue doing. I've got the season in review template there too, very similar to the first of which that we went through, what went well this season and whatnot, and we've really realistically done this throughout the course of our season so far. If you take a look, one of the questions that I liked most was, what exactly are you confident in? What are you least confident in? And that way we can start to generate some positive self-talk as we move forward in our craft. And we can then, when what we're least confident about, being mindful and aware of that, then gives us something to work on and think about to shore up and improve. And you've also got a couple different reflection questions there at the bottom as well. The last page that you'll find there is actually the official evaluation form that's used at the regional level. So when you guys go work a regional tournament, this is the evaluation form that you would be listed on. So again, if you're wondering what exactly you may be evaluated on, or if you're getting ready to work at that level 2, you've got a variety of different things here in different categories to go ahead and see, hey, this is what I should be looking at professionally in terms of my professionalism. We should talk about field presence. What exactly are they looking for plate mechanics wise, base mechanic wise, so on and so forth. So a lot of really good things here, hopefully, to figure out and to use. I don't think you can use all of these, but at the same time, I do think that they are definitely differentiated to get to who exactly you are. If you're a checklist person, maybe the evaluation forms are great. This stop, start, continue one I think is really good, especially as we get back into clinic mode here in the off season, and then some reflective templates then there, obviously, as we've mentioned, to really think about as well. So the Umpires Grind, again, that's linked in there, just a resource for you guys to use to hopefully make us a little bit more mindful as we go ahead and get into things here and think about stuff headed into 2022. DJ Seth, anything else to go ahead and add in that with the Umpires Grind?
All good for me.
Alrighty. Well, good. Well, tonight, as I mentioned here, a lot of things here. So we'll go ahead and transition from the Umpires Grind to now this whole topic of more modern challenges and modern trends. And there's 3 realistically that we want to take a look at here tonight. Before we get into those, remember last week we looked at a couple of them. Number 1, we looked at changing philosophies on angle distance plays, positioning for those at first base, moving from our 90 to now considering a position closer to the line, more towards 120 degrees for a couple reasons. Quicker on the swipe tag and then more likely to be able to see a pulled foot. We also talked about staying in the window. Many of you guys shot me videos of Jordan Baker and his clip in the World Series last week. It was an awesome clip for you to take a look at staying in the window, and we'll probably use that one quite a bit in our training with our wedge progression. And then Seth took us through the modern strike zone, the fact that catchers were pulling everything now, so tracking and proper use of eyes, definitely a challenge to what we've got ahead of us then in 2022. Now this week we'll move away from those things: angle distance at first base, the wedge, and the staying in the window in the modern strike zone. And in the three areas that we'll specifically focus on are, number one, rethinking the library, and Seth will take us through rethinking the library here in just a second. Secondly, we'll actually talk about force plays for plays at the plate, and I don't know about you guys, but I haven't really been taught or instructed much on how to handle force plays at the plate, kind of an evolving concept here in the umpire world. And then lastly, I'll take us through then the mindset, the idea of balancing stubbornness with approachability. So those are the three major topics for us tonight. Rethinking the usage of the library, that's with Seth. DJ will take us through force plays at the plate and some things to consider there. And then ultimately, I'll take us through the mindset. We'll also continue to use the chat. Not only is that open for your questions, but we'll have some participatory questions in there too. So as you see those pop up on the screen, please feel free to go ahead and type some answers and responses then on into the chat. So without further ado here tonight, we'll go ahead and get ready to get into things. And that'll start us off here with Seth. Seth, I'll get ready to share my screen here with everybody if you want to go ahead and take it away here on things relative to rethinking the library. So let me go ahead and get that all pulled up here for us.
Yeah, so what we're going to talk about rethinking using the library, something we've started to notice over the past few years is that the library is typically going to cause more trouble than it's going to help with. And what we mean by that is the first thing, well, I'll wait till Stu pulls up this graphic. Here we go. So the first question we have to answer is, what is the library? The idea for the library is it's a place where we can go to read the play. The problem with the library is it's an arbitrary location. So if I ask everybody in here where the library is at, we're probably going to get 5 or 6 different answers of exactly where the library is. So one, it's not something that we can just tell you an exact point. Like, we know where first baseline extended is. We know where third baseline extended is. The library is an arbitrary, ambiguous area that has no real definition. And then the other part of it is what happens is umpires will, as we start to move towards that library, it keeps them anchored to a point, and it often makes them late for plays either at third base or at home, depending on where they read, and then continue to go. So if you want to go to the next slide, Stu. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to, instead of basically using this library, we're going to use our knowledge, and then we're going to come up with a better plan of action. So we know we're going to rotate to third base when we have R1 only and R1, R3 situations on all fields. And then once we move to the larger diamonds, the 50, 70, and the 90-foot field, we're also going to move to third base when we have tag ups with R1 and R2. As a plate umpire, we're going to be responsible for those rotations. So instead of going to the library and reading whether or not we're going to have a play at third or not, instead, all we're going to do is, well, the idea is we need to be to our base prior to the play. So in order to achieve that, what we're going to do is we are going to rotate aggressively with the notion that we are going to have a play at third base. And while we're rotating, we're going to simultaneously read the play. Once we come to the conclusion that we're not going to have a play at third base, we're just going to stop, turn around, and go back home. We're not going to come to some ambiguous area anymore and then read and then either continue rotating or go back. We're just going to go until we realize we don't need to go anymore, and then we're going to turn around. That was kind of one of our points of emphasis with the regional umpires this year, was rotate aggressively, and then you'll be there before the play. And we're going to implement that. And you can implement this in 2, 3, and 4-man systems on the fields.
Yeah, one quick thing to add here on this graphic, if you take a look on the screen, you've got the green area at point of plate, and you've got the green area kind of where we get to cutting into the cutout here in the 2-man system, or the 2-umpire system, and that's kind of where we want to go. This red area oftentimes is where we see umpires like stop. They can't be read by their partners. We're not sure what exactly they're doing. So essentially what we want to do is sprint from point of plate straight to the other green spot. We want to go from green to green, and we want to avoid meandering or being slow in the red area. So it's a sprint from point of plate, then to third base anytime we are in those situations that require the plate umpire to rotate. So realistically, either you are hanging on to point of plate, that's what we talk about with efficient movement, or you're rotating up to third base. And as Seth mentioned, we are now not necessarily getting to a spot in reading like the library. Essentially, the library is the entire duration of the trip from point of plate up to third base. So we're reading, as Seth said, simultaneously from the plate up then to third base. And we got a couple clips here, Seth. I'll let you go ahead and get those going through here as well. So I'll go ahead and get those up and ready for us too. So here's your clip, Seth.
So on this first clip, we got this ball out to the outfield. And you see this plate umpire, he's kind of just meanders the whole time. And by when the runner hits second base, he's not even a third of the way up yet. And so now we have a situation where we're rotating slowly and he's going to arrive at third base at the same time as the play. So if we use what we just talked about and we just rotate aggressively on the whole thing, he is probably there by the time this runner is halfway to third base. He's probably in position right for a call. But instead, we have him arriving at the same time as the ball, and it doesn't even get over into fair territory. He's still in foul territory looking at this call. So that was a prime example of somebody just kind of meandering and not really making a decision.
And remember that green area versus the red area. He just kind of slowly goes in that red area. This should be a sprint. And that way we arrive, as Seth said, at the same time. Next one here for you, Seth.
So this one, we have another ball hit to the outfield, and you can kind of see it. The ball gets by and it ends up going to the fence. And this guy rotates out, and he gets like halfway to third base and then stops. He's realized he doesn't have a play at third base, and then he just backpedals all the way. Well, now what happens is as he's walking backwards, the runner is gaining ground on him. And so now we have, again, a situation where we're arriving in a position at the same time as the play is happening. And then likewise, he's out of position here because if you watch the play develop, he's actually looking through the catcher for his pertinent information. Again, so he rotate up, and then once he gets to that spot and he realizes I don't have a play at third base, he just needs to turn around and come back to point on plate, and then we can get on to work wedge. Here we're kind of stuck, and that tag's happening probably right there through the catcher's left thigh. And so he's looking through that too. So again, if he's point of plate there, he probably sees that player a little better, or he can get farther out and get his call. But again, we need to just be aggressive about everything.
I think his initial steps, and Seth, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a pretty good sprint out to get him. And he reads like there's no play, right? And then your point, Seth, is once he reads no play here, because the ball goes to the wall here, now it's return aggressively back to point of plate, use the wedge, and go from there.
Yeah, everything until he changed directions is exactly what we want. But then he just needs to keep going with it. He needs to flip around and then do the same steps back to the plate.
Now, at the end of it, we got great use of eyes here, right? Proper use of eyes confirms firm and secure possession right there. Yep. Good timing out of that too. So nonetheless, pretty good umpire. Just need to get him back immediately to your point. I see a couple questions in the chat, DJ. We can feed those to Seth if you want to.
George was just George, correct me if I'm wrong, just confirming that first example was on a 90-foot diamond. Basically just, acknowledging that this trend or this ideology, is going to apply to 60, 70, and 90-foot fields.
Yeah, the only situations that is specific to the 50, 70, and 60, 90 fields is that R1, R2 situation where we have a fly ball to the outfield and we have a tag up play. That's the only one that's specific to that size field. So we talked about this in the slide earlier, but how do we know when we need to either commit to third or return to home? And again, the mindset should be we're going to third until we realize or conclude that we don't have a play at third, and then we're immediately going back. So again, we got this obviously there's all giving me balls hit to the outfield. We see him rotating aggressively, and he gets to third base in a great time. I mean, he's about 2/3 of the way there as that runner is getting off second, and his eyes are on the runner the whole time if you watch him. And then as soon as he sees that runner kind of stop at second and say, okay, I'm not going any farther, he stops and then turns around and comes back. Now that's likely going to be the end of play, so he's not in a super hurry to get back to home. But if it wasn't the end of play, he's in a position now that where he can rotate aggressively back to the plate, get in to his point of play, and be in a position for a play at the plate.
Yeah. My only knock on this umpire, and you can see, like Seth mentioned, he is rotating aggressively. He arrives 90 feet ahead, basically, here of the runner, but he probably heads back home way too quick. Like the ball's not even been returned to the infield just yet. So just kind of hang on to that spot, and just in case the ball scoots through, you're already there because you've got R1. And if you're already heading back as that stuff happens, then obviously, now you're going to have to gain back ground. But a really good job of that umpire to bust out. This expectation here is exactly what we want to see. That level 1 knowledge of knowing when you're supposed to rotate. Level 2 knowledge then of arriving with the intention of being ahead and then staying aggressive. And like we said, he can just probably hold on a little bit longer there.
Yep, totally agree. And then so now this is going to take a look at the situation of we're not reading a play. So what we're going to see is basically the same thing we saw, but now we're going to see our umpire fully commit here. So we have a ball that's down the left field line. Now, first things first here, he's got fair, foul, catch, no catch responsibility on this. So this is like a perfect, situation here of not only can I get down the line to get that call, but I also can be at third base for a call if necessary. So we see him go out, we get his fair, foul, catch, no catch decision. And then he immediately looks to see where his runner's at. And he sees his runner's basically halfway to third base at this point. And you see him now decide, okay, I have nothing. And he turns around and he just books it. He gets point of plate. And now he executes for a play at the plate. I mean, it's spot on job. Absolute spot on job. And you can even see as he decides to come back home, he glances over his shoulder to get his touch at third base because that is still his responsibility in this situation.
Great job here too, rotating aggressively. You take a look, like we want to be at third base, 90 feet ahead. He's pretty close there, right? So we're giving the benefit of the doubt there. Probably takes a little bit of a couple steps too far out there, but he's a bigger guy, so he's got to make sure that he can get set and whatnot there for it before returning home. And I think one of the things to think about is just the nature of the hit. Like if it's a base hit, likely we're not going to have a play. We still have to rotate and finish the rotation and hold on to it. But the ball gets through, goes to the wall, it's going to be an extra base hit, and we can read it. Now we got to make sure that we get up to that other green area, make the read as we're running, and then obviously as this umpire does, and Seth broke down really well, return aggressively back to the plate.
There's the shoulder peek for the touch. And we get to play at the plate, and he executes perfectly. Any questions on the library?
Yeah. All righty. We'll get ready to turn it over to DJ for trend number 2. That is rethinking positioning for force plays at home plate. Kind of 2 major questions that DJ will talk through and answer is, number 1, what exactly is the plate umpire responsible for during a force play at home plate? Think about those things. And then based upon those responsibilities, once we know what he or she is responsible for, how then should the plate umpire position to best adjudicate or best handle those responsibilities? So, DJ, it's all yours here.
Awesome. So something, as Stu has mentioned before, something that we haven't really, we don't really think to discuss in the formal training session or training setting. So, but, I think we probably just, in the past, it's like force play to plate, touch the plate. That's pretty much it. There's definitely some more things going on there. So, what's our plate umpire's initial responsibilities during a force play at home plate? Obviously, the out. We're going to be looking for contact with the plate. We're going to be looking for firm and secure possession with the ball in the glove. And I think those are the initial ones. So, Stu, go ahead and run it through. Couple examples here. Let's see here. Couple examples here. So we're going to have a bases loaded force play at the plate, and we can see right here. The first thing that I think is critical to note is just like we're looking for a play at the wedge or anything like that. There's no negative steps. We have that efficient movement that we've been talking about. So we're staying close. And why should we want to stay close? Obviously, we're looking for a force play at the plate, but that ball could essentially go anywhere. We need to be ready for any sort of crazy swipe tag action. Maybe the catcher isn't aware that there's a force play at the plate, so we need to be ready for a tag play. The next thing we need to be looking for is obviously contact with the plate with a foot or body part, and then the ball firm and secure firm and securely possessed in the glove. By staying close as well, that allows us to take that 1 to 2 side steps and be looking down the line for another responsibility that the plate umpire has, which would be potential interference, whether that's from a recently retired runner as R3 or runner's lane interference heading down the first baseline. So there is a lot going on that maybe we've taken for granted in the past as far as the education and making sure that we teach that. So we want to make sure that we're taking smart steps, standing straight up, we're staying close, taking a step into the throw, so that way we can see, also just be ready for a swipe tag as mentioned. And then those 1 to 2 side steps there, after we confirm that firm and secure possession, we still have an out at first base that we have to worry about and potential runner's lane interference. So we want to make sure that we do that drift into first baseline extended.
Kind of 3 major things to think about, and I'll let DJ take back the next clip here. So as he said, number 1, stay point of plate and stay close. Why? Remember, things could evolve pretty quickly into a swipe tag. Number 2, we're going to try and get to 1 or 2 steps at the most towards the direction of the origin of the throw. That'll give us that look, as DJ was talking about, with ball in the glove and the transfer. I think with the ball on the right side of the infield, we can probably just stay at point of plate like Tom Hallion did in that clip. Once it moves to the left side of the field, though, we probably have to take a step towards the origin of the throw, just so that we can see that come in and then ultimately drift, as you see here in step number 3, to first base line on the transfer. So DJ did a great job of going through those 3 kind of steps. Start point of plate and stay close. Take 1 step to the origin of the throw if you can, especially if it's on the left side of the field. Sometimes that's not possible because it does develop quickly. And then lastly, you want to drift to first baseline extended to see the transfer, confirm, firm, and secure. And then, as DJ's talked about, any retired runner interference or potentially any runner's lane interference as well. DJ, here's your clips.
Cool. So here we're going to have a really good example here of staying close at the plate. And as Stu mentioned, this is going to be on that left side of the infield. Force play at the plate as well. Staying close, hugging it. And this one developed really, really quickly. We've got contact with the plate. We've got firm and secure possession. And immediately making that transition, those side steps down to first base line extended to be checking for that RLI down the line there. Again, staying close. If you can get an extra step on that left side of the infield just to help with the angle piece there. And then, as you can see right there before this camera takes our umpire out of view there, looking down the line for potential runner's lane interference. Great look by our umpire here at home plate.
Great use of eyes by umpires all around, not only the plate umpire, but take a look at U1, right? He's got this force play. And then he's confirming firm and secure with his eyes right now before he even goes into his out call. So great job there with firm and secure. Keep going here, DJ.
Sure, absolutely. I believe this is probably our last one. We got a zinger down the line. This one is before the bag. So that's going to be home plate's fair foul. So we've got to get up and get out and seeing that quickly. And then, of course, bases loaded, play at the plate, staying close, looking for that angle as well. And looky there. Even though we've got the out on the force play, we still have a swipe tag to be worried about. And then, as you can see, just in case we're going to have a play down the first base line, that kind of naturally put us to first base line extended just to be able to be seeing. I think the quick transition on this play from the fair foul to staying close to the bag is what pays off there. So there's like 3 different angles on this play alone that you have to be looking at. You're going third base line extended for fair foul, staying point of plate for the force play, and then swinging back around to the other side for potential interference. And this is a great look here. You got your fair foul, and then it's going to be coming right back at you. So making that slide transition, you got your tag play or force play, and then looking for anything else you might have on the diamond. Great work there by that plate umpire.
One of the focal points for 2022 will be efficient movement from behind the plate. And this is really why we eliminate the library. If you think about it, a lot of umpires here, especially in the softball world, are taught to go to the library kind of in this space right by the dirt circle and read this play. That's a tough look, I think, overall. And even getting there and getting back, that makes that library, I think, just gives us some food for thought, stimulate the thinking to think about reusing that library. And like we said, use that green strip at the point of plate and the green strip at the end, especially when in rotation. But efficient movement, like DJ's pointing out, he's got to be point of plate for a fair foul. That allows him to hold on to the line at point of plate, because when we're point of plate, we can see fair foul down both lines. Here's the third base line. Now he's in a good place then. He actually gets that step in towards the origin of the throw. Tony does great job there. And then even if it were like a swipe tag where we didn't have the force here, Tony's in a great place here to go ahead and make this call as well. And he drifts to that third base angle. So just, those three major things to think about with regards to force plays at the plate that we saw Tom Hallion do, Jamie Hinojosa do, and then Tony Calcano do. Number one, start point of plate and stay close. Secondly, you want to make sure that you can take a step towards the throw if you can, and then drift so that you've got eyes then on potential interference. You're going to drift then to first base line extended. DJ, Seth, anything else to add there on those two trends, positioning for force plays at the plate and then rethinking the use of the library? Anything there?
All good for me.
All right. Well, the last concept then is kind of one that is definitely trending out there, and it's umpire mindset. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready to share my screen yet again here with us. And with this umpire's mindset, specifically what we're going to go ahead and take a look at then are ways in which then we can try and balance two major concepts. And I've learned that they can be called then the competing personalities of umpires. So if you think about Jekyll and Hyde here, that's kind of what we're basically trying to get through. So competing, this whole idea of stubbornness versus likability or approachability, is our last major concept here before we go ahead and turn everybody loose then for the rest of their Sundays here. So the personalities of an umpire, and kind of want to take this concept from one of my good friends, Brian DeBrouwer at United Umpires. This is something that I thought he was sharing with his umpires that was really useful, and I thought, great, we've got to do kind of the same thing here as well. Now, I just went ahead and looked at the definition of stubbornness. It's just the determination not to change one's attitude or position on something. And if I asked you guys if stubbornness was a positive or negative thing, many of you guys would probably look at it in a negative light. And there is definitely a negative light to this. However, stubbornness can also be good. And we want to talk about balancing then good stubbornness versus bad stubbornness as we talk about it. But just in general, so we have a definition of the working sake, the determination not to change one's attitude or position on something, that's what we're referring to as stubbornness. Contrast that then with approachability, where you are friendly and easy to talk to. You're likable. And essentially, these are the two major personality traits that we as umpires have to balance on the diamond. And we have to figure out when exactly should we flip the switch. And we have to officiate the game and manage the participants, and in the whole conversation of game management, building relationships, and things like that, this is the line we're walking. Stubbornness versus approachability or likability. Now, if any of you guys are Patrick Swayze fans and like the movie Roadhouse, I'm a big Roadhouse fan. If you kind of think about when he's training his bouncers, he tells them to be nice, and he gives them all these different situations. And finally, somebody pipes up and says, "Well, when are we going to know when it's not ready, when we shouldn't be nice?" He says, "I'll tell you." So you kind of think about that scene and being nice and things like that. Balancing that is essentially kind of the backdrop here in this Jekyll and Hyde, so to speak, identity or personality of umpires of stubbornness versus approachability. As I mentioned, a lot of times here, stubbornness does have a negative connotation to it. But one of the reasons why I think so many umpires do get really, really stubborn or ultimately even defensive is because we listen to way too many outside influences that realistically shouldn't matter. Now, as umpires, we have a very small margin of error. As we all know, if you've taken a look at the strike zone analytics that are out there with Major League Baseball in the postseason, like I think we were doing the math today, I think about 2% of calls are actually missed ball strike-wise, but everybody else has blown it way out of proportion. But so we have a really narrow margin of error here, and we can't let outside influences affect that margin of error. Because if we let those outside influences get into our head and talk to us, now all of a sudden, not only are we trying to call a game, which is hard enough to do already, but now we've got these outside influences messing with the mind game here too, and that's going to affect our ability to call the game effectively. So if you want to label this as mental toughness, I guess you could, but being stubborn enough to quiet the noise, go back to Kevin Costner for Love of the Game, if you will, clear the mechanism. We all have a tough job to do with a really small margin of error. The last thing that we want to do is exacerbate that or worsen it by allowing then those external influences then to increase or affect that margin there. So be mentally tough to get things right, regardless of the situation, regardless of people yelling at you, regardless of what type of advice you may get from older or less experienced umpires that may not be as applicable as well. So that's an example of good stubbornness, right? Where we can clear the mechanism and be mentally tough enough to get stuff right, regardless of the situation that we're in. So then what is bad stubbornness? Well, bad stubbornness is pretty simple. And this is where a lot of umpires can kind of get into trouble. We've all been there where we've had a game where we call a borderline pitch a strike. We've kind of heard from both sides on our strike zone all game. And finally, the hitter of the offense, gives you a look or gives you a reaction. The game kind of stops and everybody knows that somebody disagreed with what you called. So you call a borderline pitch a strike and the hitter of the offense lets you know by their actions or words that you missed the pitch. The next pitch comes in, and you've probably heard this before. Well, that next pitch comes in, and it's close, and it's in the zip code. I'm getting that one. I'm calling that one a strike to let them know. No, that's bad stubbornness. We don't need to teach anybody a lesson. But good stubbornness would be to call your zone. So your response to this situation should be to call the pitch accordingly. If it's a strike, call it a strike. If it's a ball, call it a ball. So have the mental wherewithal not only to close out the outside distractions, but also then to have the self-control, the self-discipline, if you will, to not let the external influence of people barking at you determine your strike zone and whether or not you expand outside that strike zone, just to quote, teach somebody a lesson, okay? Focus more on getting the next pitch right. Because if we can do that, then we build mental toughness, we have positive self-talk, we're more likely to get calls right, and essentially then effectively balance the need to be stubborn versus the need to be approachable. So bad stubbornness would take us outside of what our abilities should put us in, or outside the strike zone here in this example. Good stubbornness then is the discipline to get stuff right, to get the next pitch right, regardless of the situation. So good stubbornness is essentially where we're after. Good stubbornness is when we make a stubborn call or a tough decision. Maybe somebody left the base too soon or something like that. We need to stick to that call. So we can make a stubborn or tough call or a tough decision, a ruling or whatever the case may be given the situation. But when we're questioned, and this is where we balance it, because oftentimes when we're questioned, we have to understand the perspective by which a coach, manager, player may be questioning us. So when questioned, issue a likable response. So let's take that example here where you're getting stuff yelled at you about your strike zone. You call a marginal pitch a strike that you thought was a strike, and then all of a sudden you hear from the dugout, no way, the batter steps out and looks back at you and says that pitch wasn't in the zone. Well, now, instead of that, or if you hear like, hey, where was that pitch, aggressively out of the dugout, all you got to say is, Coach, I tracked that one outside. I got that one outside. And that response, that self, you're going to stick to that strike zone, and you're going to let them know, hey, that's a ball today. But at the same time, your response will be likable. So we can be tough. We can be aggressive with our strike zone. We can make stubborn calls. But when questioned, empathetically kind of go back through and think about the perspective of it and then issue a likable or approachable response to your stubborn call. That's balancing or walking the line between stubbornness and approachability. Now, self-awareness is key. We got to have confidence in ourselves, and we get confidence, as we've heard from our World Series umpires, through our trainings, our habits, self-reflection, through video evaluations and things like that. But we also have to be objective. We're certainly not perfect, but ultimately self-talk, positive self-talk goes a long way. We've all had really close games where we haven't been sure if our strike zone has been as good as we thought it could be. Well, don't let that get back into your mind. Remember, those are those external influences that can affect our ability to get the next pitch right. So positive self-talk telling you that you can do this, as our World Series umpires mentioned, because of your training, because of your habits. That then goes a long way then in balancing stubbornness and approachability. Empathy, as I mentioned, another powerful trait. Understand where somebody else is coming from. Are they getting beat 10-0? Have they not won a game? Are they new coaches? Are they somebody that's new to Little League? Have they lost a stretch of games? You got to know all those kinds of things to understand where someone is coming from, understand why you're being questioned, and that way, when you make a tougher call, ball strike, fair foul, out safe, interference, obstruction, whatever it might be, you can put yourself into an empathetic place, and even though the decision may be a stubborn one that you're not going to budge on, your response then is approachable at that particular time. And I think in order to build approachability or build likability, taking advantage of opportunities to be likable is a huge deal. And that's to identify non-competitive moments. When you're going to get a drink of water, for example, maybe you're getting a foul ball back from somebody. Maybe it's between innings and you take your mask off and you kind of smile at someone, or a kid says something in the dugout and you just laugh at them. Take advantage of those non-competitive moments to humanize yourself. And that's going to allow you to be tough with your calls or stubborn with your calls, yet approachable with the way that you manage the game's participants and fluctuate then the way that the game operates. By your actions, let people know that you are there for them. By your actions, let people know that you're there for them. And you do that through non-competitive moments. And then secondly, the way that you explain or articulate things to coaches, even though you know you're going to be stubborn on your call, meaning that you're not going to budge from it. Now, some people may say that is going to make you a pushover. Absolutely not. Being approachable does not mean being a pushover. I got a clip from just a picture from that scene in Roadhouse where Patrick Swayze is training his bouncers. Remember, be nice until it's not time to be nice. And we can use some nonverbals, that stop hand, to let people know, kind of the universal sign that, hey, we're not going there today. Okay, that's a good one to use. You can use your nice verbals. I hear you. That expresses empathy. Please don't go there. If they decide to take it over a step of the line, that's still building approachability to an already stubborn call with an approachable response. Hey, could you do me a favor and do this? Those are all ways then to use your verbals to be nice and ultimately build credibility, number one, and then make sure that you maintain approachability and balance that then with stubbornness as well. Okay. One thing that I always like to ask is, hey, does that make sense? Do you understand? Do you have any questions or anything like that? Especially when I'm explaining a ruling, okay? Because that goes ahead and builds that rapport even more so and allows us then to balance, as I've mentioned, stubbornness, where I'm going to stick with my call, but I'm going to be approachable, understand where somebody's coming from when questioned here too. Now, there's obviously time not to be nice. We're going to use that's enough. That's a stop hand. Knock it off is a great phrase to also use too. And that's when we get to our line. That's when we know it's time not to be nice. But this whole idea of balancing approachability and stubbornness, I think is a mentality mindset that we're going to continue to explore into 2022. And just one thing that we want to continue to think about and frame in a variety of different ways of our life. It's our way to, it's okay. It is absolutely okay for us to be stubborn with calls and stick to those and be tough to do what we need to do. But our responses then to those need to build credibility, yes, but ultimately approachability as well. Need to be nice, be nice, be nice until it's not time to be nice. And then we've got some tools in the tool bag here to go ahead and use. Those are the three modern trends and challenges here that we wanted to go through here tonight. Again, those three very quickly were rethinking the usage of the library. DJ took us through force plays at the plate, and then balancing the whole idea of stubbornness versus approachability would be the third one. As I mentioned, next week we'll be off. Remember, that is then for Halloween, so no meeting next week, but we will be back on November 7th, the first Sunday in November, to start to talk about designing clinics and trainings for 2022, especially a lot of those of you who are going to go ahead and go out there and do those, whether they be in person or in the virtual world. We're going to cover each of those. We'll hang around as we normally do here with questions and things like that. Appreciate everybody's time and attention here this season, again, on 3 Up, 3 Down, as we reflected on 2021. Hopefully, we've given you plenty of things here to stimulate your thinking over the last couple of weeks as you try and make those improvement plans. Use that Umpires Grind here to go ahead and get those into perspective. But everyone have a great week here coming up. Enjoy the week off coming up to us for Halloween. And like I said, we'll be back on November 7th with our next season, Season 8, designing clinics and trainings, both in the virtual and in-person worlds here as we turn to 2022. Appreciate everyone, your time and attention. We look forward to seeing then everybody on November 7th for our next season. Have a good one, everyone.